Hello everyone and welcome back to the DreamHack Open 2015 live from Tour. I'm Richard Lewis, your host. Next to me is our expert, Wax Angel. We're all a little bit shell-shocked at the moment on the desk. I wasn't expecting that to go quite as badly for Harston. We'll definitely talk about that a little bit, but just, I'll introduce you. That's Apollo there. He's come back. He's just an attention seeker.
That's the only reason I'm up here.
Is it cameras? Is the camera?
There's cameras. Todd seems to have disappeared, so I think I'll take his place.
Yeah, I'll just go up there. And of course, next to him is the cheeky chappy Nathanius, who someone buy him a Razer, eh? It's time. So look, let's talk about the game we just saw, Harston versus Hyun, before we move on to what we got. I mean, I'm bitterly disappointed. I definitely didn't expect a 3-0. The first game, there was an early error, which kind of categorized it. And then the second game, you know, it was small degrees, Hyun using his experience. And then the third one was just shark instincts from Hyun. You know, he just smelled blood in the water.
I think that when I was watching it back behind the stage, I was watching it with MC, and MC just told me is that every Protoss player right now is doing the same thing over and over. It's the, you know, attempt to take the third Nexus with 3 gateways in Forge. And Hyun knew exactly that's how Harston would play coming into this. Even that the small little detail and the little difference that Harston has over other Protoss players is he likes to bring in Colossus more so than other Protoss players that always think on Blink Stalkers. So Hyun knew exactly what to do. The Mulus worked well in that game. On game number 2 it was, and then the game 3 was perfect, knowing that Harston likes to go Nexus first every time. Hyun knew what he was going up against. He knew how to tackle him, and he played it perfectly. It was a great series from him. And,
you know, it's got to be said as well, credit where it's due. We sort of said Hyun was beatable, but he actually had a good performance, Wax. Again, the Korean overlords proving their superiority over us dirty foreign types.
I mean, it did feel like Harston, even though he lost 3-0, that he was like, you know, a few holds, you know, it's a little, just not that far away from holding and like trying to, and stabilizing and playing out like the macro game he wanted to. He just couldn't get over the hump.
Yeah, he really couldn't. So a shame. Don't worry about it, Harston. Me, you, Biz tonight is definitely happening. So anyway, and still, it's got to be said as well, getting into the final 8, huge achievement for him. It could still be his year. So let's update the bracket. Let's see what's been going on today. So you can see there's confirmation of Parting versus Hyun. I don't think Parting will be too worried based on what we've seen today. Parting, I've given him an extra Y. He's absolutely on fire at the moment. And we're going to be bringing you the GuMiho versus MarineKing. And I must apologize as well. I kept calling him MarineKing Prime all day yesterday. I'm living in the past. It's just like, you know, back when I was handsome.
he's always MKP to everybody.
Yeah.
All his real fans.
Thank you. Thanks for the forgiveness. So I guess we should talk a little bit about this matchup. I mean, I've got to say I'm immensely surprised that here we are at this stage of the tournament. We're still talking about MarineKing, actually. I thought a lot of people had written him off, didn't think he'd get this far. And I guess at this stage, anything can happen, right?
Yeah, anything's possible. I mean, he could win this and go through to the semifinals and maybe destroy GuMiho, but I think it's probably going to be the other way around now. I look at all the players that have got to where they are now, and I think MarineKing's actually had one of the easier paths to the quarterfinals. And now this is a big match for him and a big task. I think GuMiho's, for me, got this easily.
Okay. Nathanius, anything to add to that?
Looking at Terran versus Terran styles, MarineKing, all I've really been able to see from him was how he played up against Bunny. I'm not too familiar with seeing MarineKing play mech builds. When I see the styles that he brought out against Bunny, I think I would actually say that that's more GuMiho style. And if we get like mech versus mech out of these two, it's going to be really, really weird. I favor GuMiho in straight up games, but MarineKing, you know, he's volatile in both bad and good ways.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we'll see that many like straight up long games because like these guys have played each other quite a few times in Ultima League online cups. And each time they play, like both these guys, they like to do the early game aggression TvT. You know, like unupgraded Marines, Hellions, landed Vikings, you know, Banshees. These small scale battles that can easily snowball out of control if one player gets an advantage, and that just ends the game. Like these guys have played a ton. Very few of the games have gone above 15 minutes. We're going to see a lot of early game action. This could be a quick series.
Well, we've had a couple of quick series today as well, which means the tournament is hurtling ahead of schedule, which doesn't happen very often. So speaking of schedule, we'll give you a quick reminder of what we've got coming up for you. And I want to absolutely point out, because we always get this with every DreamHack, the grand final will not be moved. It is going to be at 10:30 local time, no matter what. And the reason for that isn't that DreamHack is stubborn. They're great guys, they love you, they're flexible, but it's going to be on Swedish TV, it's going to be on STV. So it's very important that everyone in the crowd, you get your signs ready, you're going to be famous, okay? You're going to be as famous as I am. So whatever French is for hello, mum, get it written down. So back to this matchup. I mean, look, tell me about GuMiho, because, you know, we're saying he's a clear favorite here. This seems to be the consensus. For once, we're all agreed. So why is he so good?
Well, I think recently GuMiho's found his footing in StarCraft again. Throughout 2014, while he was on CG Entus, he just wasn't getting results. And funny enough, you think because before that, he wasn't on a Kesper team, then he was in 2014, played for CJ, and just he played a couple of Pro League matches. But apart from that, he didn't qualify for any tournaments. He didn't do well in anything. Then he left, he joined Invasion Esports, and then towards the end of last year, started to get results again, surprisingly. And he started to play better and better and better. He's recently top 16 within the GSL. And this is a player that we've seen play StarCraft II for 5 years now. He's played from pretty much day one of StarCraft II. Quiet year 2014, and when you start to see that, you're expecting the fizzle out and probably goodbye for the rest of the StarCraft II lifespan. But he jumped right back up and he's performing well again. And I believe in him to continue to perform well here on that stage.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we're talking about GuMiho now, but at the start of the tournament, he wasn't one of the names we were bandying around as possible contenders. Why is that?
I mean, his name kind of got lost in the pool of the super contenders, like, you know, guys like Parting, Hydra, those kind of guys. But he's still, you know, a very good Korean player, and he has a very distinct style, which I think makes him stick out above most players. Like, he is obsessed with multitasking. He's obsessed with harassment and attacking 3 places at once. Sometimes he attacks so many places at once, his multitasking can't keep up with it. But because, like, he creates so much chaos, guys who are not used to that, guys whose multitasking defensively isn't up to it, they just crumble and he just snowballs his leads.
Okay, well, we'll take a quick chat with the players now, thanks to Smix. She's with both of them, so take it away.
Thank you very much, Richard Lewis. We had some quick 3-0s that landed our first 2 semifinalists. This is our 3rd quarterfinal match to see who will join them. Torres, please help me in welcoming our next 2 players. It'll be MarineKing and GuMiho.
Let me hear your battle cry.
I spoke to you yesterday after you made it to the round of 8, and you had mentioned that you knew that this would be a very difficult match because you guys are on the same team, live in the same house, and know each other's styles very well. Because of that, there's a lot of mind games undoubtedly involved. Do you have any words to say to GuMiho before this match?
사실 같이 생활하고 이번에 드림에 왔을 때도 같이 숙소, 그러니까 호텔을 같이 쓰거든요, 방을. 그래서 이번에 만나게 돼서 좀 되게 아쉬웠는데 그래도 일단 이겨야 되니까 어제 이제 매치가 확정되고 구미호 선수가 일찍 잠에 들더라고요. 전 그 사이에 어떻게 해서 이길지 이제 전략 구상이 다 그 사이에 다 돼 있어가지고 자신 있어요.
So MarineKing says, yeah, we live in the same team house, and actually here in Tour, we're sharing the same hotel room. So honestly, in the round of 8, I was a little bit sad to face my teammate, but that being said, this is a competition and I have to win. So yesterday, when I got back to my hotel room, I noticed that GuMiho went to sleep pretty fast. So when I noticed he went to sleep, I decided to use that time and I prepared my strategies for what I wanted to do. So I'm feeling pretty confident headed into this match. GuMiho, I just told MarineKing, and he said that he's pretty confident. He prepared his strategies for this match against you. What do you have to say to MarineKing?
저는 여기 오기 전부터 왠지 정훈이랑 만날 것 같아서 오기 전부터 이미 제가 옆자리거든요, 정훈이. 이미 다 분석을 해놨기 때문에 어제 하루 만에 짠 거에는 질 것 같지 않습니다.
Wow, very confident words. GuMiho says, honestly, even before I came here to DreamHack, I had a feeling that I would face MarineKing at some point. So in the team house, I actually sit right next to him. So I've been studying and peeking over at his PC. So just because he prepared some builds yesterday does not mean that he'll be prepared against me. Some fighting words from these 2 players. Shake hands, gentlemen. Time to find out who will join our first 2 players that made it to the semifinals and be our 3rd semifinalist in DreamHack Open Tour. Let's get ready and let's head over to our desk of experts.
Experts +1. I tell you what, he's missed a trick there, because if I was rooming with someone I knew I was going to face at this stage of the tournament, the pranking that would be going on, it would be next level.
I know.
Laxatives in every drink, you know, maybe a bit of a pillow over his face in the night, you know, like, you've got to take it to the next level if you want to win.
Learn how to snore.
You don't need any help with that. And neither does Nathanius. Just ask Todd. But, you know, I think it's interesting. We've seen lots of these, you know, late game, you know, kind of in tournaments where these players do know each other so intimately that I suppose it does throw it a little bit wide open. And if anything, I would argue that's going to play into MarineKing's favor here, right?
What do you think? I mean, it comes down to the styles between the both of them, right?
It's you know, for a lot of reasons, this matchup is a pretty cool treat. You know, if you're a very hardcore Terran player, you watch MarineKing because he has some of the coolest control. He's going to show you some of the coolest micro tricks they've seen in StarCraft history. GuMiho is the guy that's going to show you the coolest builds, the coolest strategies, the one-offs that don't really pop up that other players don't really use. And that doesn't necessarily hurt either of them or benefit them in this situation because they should be expecting that. I mean, Terran versus Terran, most builds are wide open, so I don't think GuMiho has an edge there. But they'll probably be expecting those aggressive plays from each other either way.
I mean, at least from their online cup play, they've seen very, very evenly matched. They've traded games, and like I said before, they've all been games that involve a lot of early game aggression. The first player that gets a little bit of a lead, they snowball it into victory. I think it's going to be very even, but at the end of the day, I have to go with GuMiho because, you know, he likes to harass a lot. MarineKing sometimes doesn't really notice spots on his map that well. I gotta go with GuMiho here.
Do you think the crowd are going to be behind MarineKing? Obviously, he is a fan favorite from back in the day. You know, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, can they give him a lift here?
I mean, definitely. I think MarineKing's always been in the community one of the Terran players that everyone's loved to see compete. Way back when, I mean, he was supported by Reddit to travel to MLGs back in the past. He traveled over there. He had a lot of American fans. And as he said, you know, this is his first international tournament in a good couple of years. He's been, you know, playing the new Korean system. It's a lot about Pro League, Star League, GSL. But now he's back to an international event again. And this is pretty much where he made his career from the get-go. So I know a lot of people are going to be behind him. And I think it's going to help him, too, to be in this comfortable situation again.
And you saw there, I mean, clearly his strongest matchup is TvT. Which, you know, I don't know, like, we need an underdog story going on. I thought it was going to be Hearthstone. We need to get this underdog bandwagon going.
It's all about
either of them is going to be underdog versus parting. So we can all.
Everyone's an underdog versus parting.
Yeah. But I mean, these two players, I think it's kind of cool to see them in 2015 in a quarterfinal in a big international event, just because they've been around from the very beginning of StarCraft II. And I think if you you know, go back to last year and someone said, you know what, I think we can see MarineKing versus GuMiho in a quarterfinal at an international global event. And no one would believe that. And that's a cool aspect, I think, of this.
Or you could see parting versus MarineKing, that rivalry come up again. The one from 2012 come up again in 2015. No one will believe that either.
So I guess we should start talking about actual nailed-on predictions. I mean, I don't want to see another whitewash. I mean, put it that way.
Yeah.
So are we gonna though?
I think this series will be the closest out of all three so far, for sure. I mean, the previous two.
Yeah, I think it should be a close one. I mean, if we're going for actual predictions, I'm going to be on Gumi Bro's side. I love his builds. He's one of the most fun guys to watch play. If you study, he does things no one else does. I like him.
Yeah, I'm a Gumi Bro.
Yeah,
please stop using that phrase. Wax, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a close, fast series. GuMiho 3-2.
Okay, well, I'm glad that someone's, you know, we're going to be entertained. Anyway, look, we're going to get into the game. The players are ready. So we're going to throw it to our casters. It is, of course, Nathanius and Apollo. Take it away, boys.
Thank you very much, Richard and Wax Angel. We're here to bring you the third quarterfinal of the day, and I'm very excited for this one. Terran versus Terran, full of entertainment, excitement, and especially with these two players colliding together. We've seen MarineKing already play Terran versus Terran. It was fun, it was dominating, it was very aggressive from the get-go. And I know that GuMiho is going to play similar to some degree the start of the games, which I think is going to give us a really entertaining first couple of moments. But then they're going to split two ways here, Nathanius. One player likes mech, the other player doesn't really play that as often. What are your thoughts here before we jump in?
It's going to be a completely different setup when you compare it to something like the match versus Bunny. Bunny's a Terran player that as much as he likes his aggression, he likes two-base play. Both of these guys will be very comfortable playing out long games without a lot of resources and just really hitting each other hard and fast and nonstop.
All right, well, we are loading into this map now. We can jump in to give you the first game between these two players in our third quarterfinal, MarineKing versus GuMiho. Let's begin this series. Our last two players remaining. And down here to the bottom right-hand side as the red Terran player playing for Team MVP, it is MarineKing. A player that hasn't traveled for a long time, and then his opponent, also on Team MVP, but while he's abroad, he's representing Invasion Esports, it's GuMiho! Also known as the Towel Terran Nathanius, and I'm sure he's got that somewhere in that booth.
Yeah, man. He's got some sweaty hands. But you know, when you move so fast, you need to be as precise as possible. He's also known as the poor guy. I think his Pro League booth collapsed on him in one of his matches too.
That's right.
Infamous GIF.
That was one moment to remember, that's for sure. GuMiho, this is his third DreamHack tournament. He traveled over in 2013 with Leenock hand in hand. I remember that with FXO. He got to a round of 8 and then to a round of 16 in his second. And now he's here for his third performance at DreamHack. Another round of 8 performances. MarineKing debuts for the first time at DreamHack in the 5 years of StarCraft II that he's played. And we already have the 2 opening builds taking place here, Nathanius. Walk us through this.
Yeah, well, in GuMiho's side of things, it's very, very standard with a barracks into gas. He wants to play with a Reaper start. MarineKing has shown us a lot of different ways that he takes his gas first build. So he can go straight for that factory when his barracks is done, but he's already shown in this tournament the willingness to go for a very fast Reaper, even fast 2 Reapers, especially like he did against Bunny. And that can complicate things against his build, because most of the time, if you're playing the style that GuMiho is going for, you want to play a fast reactor after 1 Reaper. The Reaper scouts, keeps you safe, and mostly just wants to know what's going on. That's not going to be an issue this game, as MarineKing will open up with a Marine, and this SCV should be able to spot that. So it really comes down to how greedy does GuMiho want to be? Is he going to expect that Banshee play, or will it be the Medevac, the Mine Drop? There's so many different plays that MarineKing can make out of this gas first opening.
And already a dance around the barracks here is GuMiho looking to escape, or at least continue to scout. It's a back and forth between the both of them, with the Marine hunting it down, and this eventually will die, this SCV. I don't think he's going to be able to get out. It is a ring around the barracks, and he jumps back into the main base.
Both of them getting a proper workout there as the SCV steps back. Most importantly, though, it's actually not that bad that he's trapped inside, because he gets to see, okay, well, you should have definitely taken your second gas by now. He should not be expecting a Banshee opening. The Reaper will come in for the follow-up. So he's like, okay, well, you didn't proxy your starport, so he gets to see that. Always nice, of course. Getting the Reaper boxed in, not too fun. Does manage to barely slip out, but he should be expecting at this point a Hellion Medevac Marine Drop. That's the fastest thing that MarineKing can hit him with. He'll be leaving his base around 6 minutes, and the biggest thing you have to do is make sure they don't elevator all of it. And he might even want to get a bunker up front like we saw Bunny try to do in his series, just to make sure it's not a full frontal assault.
Well, at the moment, we're actually seeing MarineKing move out into the middle of the map here. This Hellion's going to chase that Reaper down. He's going to try and kill it. He's going to go around this corner. One more shot, and the Reaper trying to look for a way out here, and it does get blown up. Really nice there by MarineKing, and he's continued this pressure. There's 3 Marines as well. The bunker not yet complete. 2 Marines on the high ground, and GuMiho could be in a bit of trouble here. A couple of shots from these Marines do push that Hellion back, but here come the 3 from MarineKing.
Yeah, MarineKing really showing he just wants to get super aggressive, even without the tech that this build uses as its cornerstone. And GuMiho's not prepared. He would have been fine if MarineKing had waited for the Medevac, but MarineKing knows that if he can just cut a couple corners here, he's like, okay, maybe I move out without the Medevac. If he doesn't have enough units, I can do a lot of damage, and he's already forced him to evacuate this natural expansion. He's sitting on top of his ramp, and he could even still push up this ramp at any moment.
Yeah, he's got a Viking on the way to come support this too. That Hellion's very low, 1 shot, and it's gonna die, but we have units on the high ground for GuMiho. He has to evacuate this area. GuMiho in a bit of trouble to start this one off. Not a good start for him here in this best of 5.
A very hyper-aggressive choice of movements from MarineKing, and now that the Medevac is making its way over, he'll have that high ground vision. He can force his way up the ramp so much more easily against this army.
Yeah, and good spread there by GuMiho on the high ground, but MarineKing's going to push the issue. He loses one of the Hellions. And so far, good position for GuMiho up here, but the Medivac is healing. But no, it is not good enough.
It's a good
and
spread.
GuMiho will defend.
Good spread by GuMiho to hold that ramp. MarineKing has a command center on the way back home. He is finally taking that second gas. We've seen no big transitionary tech. We have not seen a movement into Banshees. MarineKing's going to throw down 2 extra barracks, so he's already showing us, I don't want to play mech like I did earlier on in this tournament. I want to play straight up bio. And GuMiho, well, there's still a little bit of time left before he completely commits one way or the other.
Yeah, it was definitely a good start there from MarineKing. Just kind of delaying this fast expansion that GuMiho had. He would have raced forward when it came to the SCV count and the amount of money he could bring in. But MarineKing pushed him all the way back while taking his own expansion. But it is not over yet. MarineKing has loaded up the Medivac full of the units that were left over from this. But currently, GuMiho in position and anticipating this type of move. Viking here on patrol move, gets a shot off on this Medivac, which is already a little bit damaged from the earlier fight.
Yeah, it's not uncommon at all to follow up those Medivac plays with either a Banshee or even a fast Raven, and we've seen the Raven be used to a great extent, actually, even by Bunny, to put some pressure on earlier on against MarineKing. So having that Viking there, always smart. It allows him to get a lot of information. This scan sees, okay, you're getting all of your infrastructure set up. There's not really that infrastructure commitment made yet by GuMiho. He's going into the Banshee, so maybe he sees, yeah, okay, third command center comes down, so he'll have a very late infrastructure, but if he doesn't take any damage from the first big aggressive push that MarineKing makes, he should be in a pretty good position.
All right, so it's all going to come down to how much of these Banshees can do, because currently there's no defense set up yet for MarineKing. He's got an engineering bay. Turrets aren't built yet, though, and Marines aren't in position. And he has no idea about this. We saw a scan come from GuMiho, who saw what was going on, but on the other side of things, MarineKing has not done that yet.
Yeah.
And here comes this first Banshee with Cloak.
And GuMiho behind all of this has taken a lot of gas. So yeah, there's the follow-up factory. So he is going to be opting for a mech build. He has a lot of gas income coming in. Of course, that third command center, the third base is so important at this stage. The Banshee's goal is to do enough damage that MarineKing has a hard time moving out once the stim is complete. If these Banshees get swatted back completely, the delayed siege tank production really opens up a lot of space for MarineKing to deal a lot of damage and bully GuMiho's weakened defenses.
All right, well, here starts this process here for GuMiho. Moves in, cloaks up. No turrets yet, so he's going to get into this mineral. I'm not sure if we've got any scans available. There's not on that one.
No,
and not
no
on
energy
this
at all.
So this is going to do a lot of damage here. 2 SCVs down already. And MarineKing surprised by this. No scouting, gets no information, and now he's paying the price for this. Marines come up, but it doesn't matter. A lot of lack of mining time here. Great move from GuMiho, and dealing a lot of damage here.
And this is exactly what GuMiho is looking for. He doesn't need to kill a crazy amount of SCVs if he's not mining off his main base at all. It's very smart to pull at least the Medivac over here, since it can heal the SCV enough to require 3 shots to kill it with a Banshee. But
there's another Banshee on the second base here as well, so this one's doing damage too. 6 SCVs have gone down. He's going to get a 7th. He's going to get an 8th in a second. Really nice play. This is a lot of damage being dealt here to MarineKing.
Yeah, this is perfect from GuMiho so far. He's managed to keep the Banshees alive for the most part. He's throwing down his armories. He's been continuing siege tank production, and now he's forced MarineKing, who, by the way, still doesn't have that third base. He's forced him into a position where he has to do something. He's being forced to attack into a mech player that has stalled for an incredible amount of time. And what this will allow GuMiho to do is he actually doesn't need to go for that third base yet, so he can just sit back on these 2. He floats the barracks out. He'll see the positioning of this army, and really he just has to be ready to stop this attack, because MarineKing does still have an equal number of siege tanks.
Does GuMiho have enough to defend against this little push out, though? His economy is great. He has this third command center, which he will move out shortly, but for the time being, is there enough here for him? If there is, this is good. MarineKing has a look on the high ground, sees tanks and Banshees.
With two orbitals, the Banshees are still a problem. He has 1 scan back home, it looks like, getting close to 2. So he'll try to use that to defend, but instead he's going to go for the big drop. The Vikings are trying to move in position for GuMiho. He has 3 of them, but 1 Medivac still manages to unload with no hit points. SCVs and Hellions coming in to try to grab this. He has the Banshees for support, which are crucial in helping to take these down. He situates himself, and that bunker in the main base of GuMiho is so key at preventing him from locking this position.
Even though MarineKing goes in and gets his army cleaned up eventually, 20 SCVs have gone down in this.
Yeah, MarineKing, though, he still never set up that third base. GuMiho has the third command center. He has access to 3 mules. GuMiho is not worried about Banshees. He can spam those mules out to recover his economy. And the most important thing is he's kept the siege tank count intact. He doesn't have to push. He could think about it, but really, he can set himself up right here, keep this third base, and basically say, MarineKing, you're going to play this game from way behind.
All right, well, here comes a push counter from GuMiho. MarineKing sacrificed everything he had built over this couple of moments in this 13-minute game. He has a little bit left over, a couple of tanks and Marines. GuMiho decides to turn around.
It's an interesting choice. I think much smarter for GuMiho to sit back when you're playing mech. Thing is, if you have a lead like this with mech and you don't push, you're for the most part invulnerable to any push that MarineKing could make. So you just position your Vikings somewhere that he can't get a big drop, and there's very little that MarineKing can actually do from that position. But if you push out, you're allowing him to catch you on siege, maybe get a drop by. The Bioforce, even if it's smaller, is still more mobile, and picking off those units while they try to siege you is much more easy when you're the defending player.
GuMiho has a couple of Hellions here. He's going to find a Marine in the center of the map as he slowly moves out to take his third base now. Starting to recover very well in the economy. He's already back up to 44 workers to 49 here with, as you said, the use of the orbital commands.
I really like this store that MarineKing's building. We generally don't see this from Terran players in this matchup when you're playing Bio. But he recognizes that because the air control is so nice for GuMiho, and MarineKing still needs to build Marauders to kill the tanks. His anti-air is actually quite limited. So a Thor is just going to be a good anchor against the crazy amount of Banshees that GuMiho has mixed into this.
GuMiho now third base getting fully saturated, gas being the most important part of that base. And his 1-1 upgrades now completing from the double armory that he did invest to a little bit earlier on. MarineKing is moving out to also take his third. But supply advantage does go over to GuMiho. 125 to 123, very similar, but this is a little bit better here for GuMiho.
Yeah, I mean, the mech army in general is going to be more cost-effective in terms of taking those straight-on engagements, as long as the tanks are sieged up. There are no turrets on this third base, so a small window opens up for MarineKing to try to grab a few SCV kills, and everything that he gets at this point is invaluable to him, but losing 2 of these Marauders for a few SCVs, the Banshees clean up. Thing is, when you're killing SCVs of a meching player, since they're usually relying on the gas, the mineral saturation isn't that big of a deal unless they're way behind. So this won't slow down GuMiho too much. He still has all the upgrades coming in, and he's still consistently producing Vikings, and for the most part, tanks.
So GuMiho's plan at this point, surely, to build up a very powerful army. I mean, that's what you do as a mech player. You sit down, you're on these 3 bases, you've got double upgrades coming in, you build this army that's going to be very difficult to stop. What is MarineKing's, though? Currently sitting back, he's on these 3 bases, did a little bit of a drop, he's building a Viking count that's actually pretty nice, but where is he going with this? What is his plan?
It's really difficult. Like MarineKing, like I said, he couldn't really move out, and he hasn't moved out. He recognizes that if he goes to take any sort of fight and he loses any more units, it's very easy for GuMiho to counterattack and kill him. So what MarineKing's basically saying is, I want to just max out on Bio. If GuMiho makes any type of push, and MarineKing is maxed, regardless of what situation the game is in, it's possible for a fight to snowball really heavily in MarineKing's favor. He just needs to catch GuMiho unsieged. Still pretty difficult to do on this small of a map.
Well, both players just building up at the moment as we get closer to the high ends of supply. 170 for pretty much both at this point. As now MarineKing has a look at this army, sees the high amount of Vikings still with the Banshees. Decent sizable army for GuMiho, and he is getting close to that 2 upgrades. It's 14 Vikings for GuMiho, 10 for MarineKing.
But MarineKing does have the 3 Thors, and I think the Thors are really crucial in this because oftentimes when the Vikings are even just fighting against other Vikings, it's not like a light unit issue, it's more of the air unit stacking issue.
Well, GuMiho's just scanned his opponent's army, had a look at it, likes what he saw, unsieges, moves out, 2 upgrades not too far away from finishing here for GuMiho. How is he going to take this fight? Where is he going to set up position? He's got a couple of SCVs with this as well.
I mean, the spread is actually not that bad. Like the army that's at the third base, I think you might want to lower those depots. Like he should be looking to encircle this army as it comes in.
Right.
Trying to play the defender against mech is really, really tricky. So now he's getting ready. He's trying to catch this army out of position. Those Thors are going to be looking to get the Banshees so that his Bio can move in. But SCVs are pulled with this too.
Both players know exactly where each other are. The high ground goes to GuMiho. He's going to clean up this command center very easily. A nice cancel on that. There's another one building up to the north. A scan from GuMiho checks out this army again. Very little medivacs here for MarineKing, and here goes GuMiho. He's going to move down. He's going to siege up Nathanius.
Yeah, the Banshee's cloak immediately. He stims forward. Actually does not have vision of the Banshees. They're just going to town. The Vikings are going to start to trade out here, but you can see that Marine and Marauder really able to capitalize on the time it takes for GuMiho to siege his army. This is exactly what MarineKing was looking for out of this engagement. So much supply in Vikings that can't do anything because there's stores on the ground, and now MarineKing just completely swings things back. This is the classic, you know, you could almost say a mistake of the mech player is to move out, get caught spot, unsieged. Yeah, he denied the 4th base, but pushing the issue further just gave MarineKing time to set up to capture him, basically.
Well, at this part of the game, both players are looking to take a 4th command center, and GuMiho's going to have a very hard time taking it. The one way that he could is put all of his units on there and hope to hold that, but that opens up a lot of other weaknesses in other areas where he won't have that many units.
There is one other thing, though. The commitment to the Thors and the Vikings has put MarineKing at a pretty weak army. He stims again. He doesn't have any medevacs whatsoever. He's going to run forward to catch his army siege. The command center is done. It's turning into a planetary right now. The tank count is still favoring GuMiho, but those Thors are soaking up a lot of damage at this point. I think GuMiho should be able to lock this down, though.
Yeah, and that's the most important part for GuMiho. He needs to establish this base as a mining income base. He's going to chase these Thors down. Hellions just kind of tanking a lot of damage for all the tanks behind it. Vikings even landing, and GuMiho is going to secure this north position, Nathanias. And that, well, actually MarineKing coming from the side, but not with enough units.
Yeah, throwing a little bit, trying to flank just a bit too late as he finishes up his +3 infantry, gets his +1 armor on his vehicles. But 3-3 is about to finish up for GuMiho. And as far as any other transitions go, MarineKing threw out a Raven. He's starting to get some medevacs, getting another command center for that 5th base, really trying to use, you know, the mobility of his army as a defender's advantage. But this game's still pretty scrappy for all things said and done.
I mean, MarineKing, from that fight that he took earlier on, had a good 40-50 supply lead, moved out the map. Was that the right decision he did to take the fight at the north position? Could he have looked for somewhere else to go?
I mean,
now it's equal.
Yeah, to knock down the 4th base, I think, is always important, but it's so hard to try to kill a bio player if you're the meching one, because either the counterattacks or just catching you on siege. Even if they sack a lot of their army, it takes them less time to replenish their Marines and Marauders than it takes you to actually build those tanks.
Well, 4th base completed for MarineKing, 5th one now just finishing up as well. He scans the north to have a look at what GuMiho has in his army.
It's very surprising to not see either of these players making like late game tech adjustments or big moves. We haven't seen either of them commit heavily to starport tech, and that's partially due to the high number of Vikings that have been consistently on the map for both players, but also the fact that the bio player is building Thors. Like, he has the setup, MarineKing, to just start Corvid Reactor, try to switch into Ravens, but he hasn't taken an air advantage definitive enough to be able to safely do that.
Well, GuMiho starting to march forward here, going to look to have a decent position on the high ground. He can siege up here, going to be a lot harder for MarineKing to engage in. He's got Hellbats in, the Medivacs as well, ready to lock and load. He already loses one of them pretty fast here. And even though this is a bit scrappy, the Vikings from MarineKing dealing a lot of damage. The Thor just gets blown up to the left-hand side.
Everything there just came up green for MarineKing. Like, that was really nice. He used the point of fence zone. He cleared out all of the Vikings. Now he can start to use those starports. We see 2 Banshees in production. Cloak, not as big of a deal. Their Thor count for GuMiho, basically non-existent. He realizes this and immediately queues 3 up. He's like, ah, yes, there is something I can die pretty easily to now. His ground force is still far superior.
Right, he's adding on additional starports as well now too.
Yeah, the thing is, it also gives GuMiho more supply that he can actually use for mech units since he's no longer invested in air.
Well, this base is going to get taken down pretty fast here. MarineKing, though, realizing his opponent's army's all down south and just going to sacrifice this base to hopefully trade off. 5th versus 4 is a fantastic trade here for MarineKing.
Yeah, Hellions managed to squeeze their way into the northeast base, but it's also difficult for GuMiho to come protect this. Even if he sits here trying to repair this planetary, which he will knock down, that army is still in a very tough spot. I mean, MarineKing still has the option to try to charge towards the production as GuMiho gets ready to attack his 3rd.
Where's MarineKing's Banshees? I mean, when they come into play, there's no anti-air currently for this army of GuMiho.
He's gonna cut him off. He's cutting off the retreat path. He doesn't have the Thors. All he needs to do is force him to siege. MarineKing doesn't even need to engage this because he has the Banshees on top of the army.
And Banshees slowly are going to start taking down these tanks one by one, and that's going to leave the Marine Marauders easy access to get to the Hellbats. They're on siege once again. MarineKing, excellent play, taking the fight to the air, which is where he's dominating. GuMiho's army's split in 2. He just can't do anything at this point.
He doesn't even need to fight them. He just has the Banshees. He's like, yep, I'm going to keep your army parted. And these 3 Thors, as powerful as they are not in a position to actually defend those tanks that were on the run. GuMiho is bringing everything back. He will clean up a lot of this bio, but MarineKing sitting at the supply lead.
Yeah,
he's got the better tech at this point. A lot of these Vikings are weak. GuMiho has a lot of starports, but at this point, he just needs to rebuild his tanks.
All right, well, MarineKing's marching back. He's moving over to a completely new tech structure. He's actually got the fusion core on the way. He's got,
oh boy,
not going to use that for a while, but at the moment he's got to be careful not to die to this push again from GuMiho. Decently sized army, decent anti-air this time around.
Yeah, I mean, the 3 Thors are nice, but he's also going to force those tanks to not be shooting at the low ground units, or at least the Thors. He does push in one more time. There's still 4 tanks anchoring the sun. He's got another 2 showing up. The Banshees really clumped. The Thors knock him down. GuMiho getting ready to push. He's managed to take a 20 supply lead. MarineKing just needed another volley or 2 of units. He's invested so much into these Ravens, so much into this Fusion Core and Cloak all at once that he doesn't have the actual ground force to kill just a handful of Thors and tanks.
And this is not very good because MarineKing's 4th base is now exposed as GuMiho retakes his own. This is very good for GuMiho. He's going to chase down these SCVs, and this is going to be a lot of damage here to the potential income MarineKing needs from this base. GuMiho found himself in a wonderful position here, Nathanius.
This game's put me on an emotional roller coaster, Apollo. We've been back and forth. Basically, every single battle puts the other guy ahead somehow. Neither one of these players can get into a game-winning position. It seems like MarineKing wants that play to be the battle cruiser. He has 1 on the way. He's going to need a few more than that to do the trick, but it's a direction that can work against a mech player. You don't have a lot of anti-air.
This is very difficult to engage into this army without the full air support. He stims up, but he's going to take a lot of damage from the tanks at the back here. MarineKing just going to go for it. Everything gets blown up. The Raven does a Seeker missile into the Thor. That doesn't really do too much. MarineKing is in trouble as GuMiho stands strong on this base, continues to march forward in a crazy, entertaining back and forth game from these 2 veterans of StarCraft II. It is over. GG. GuMiho will take map number 1.
Very intense game number 1, Apollo. That was the scrappy fest I think we were talking about before this match. Despite going so long, we never saw either player reach that heavy Raven composition or even that battle cruiser finish close to 30 minutes in that game. And that's just a sign that both these guys put so much pressure on each other, but they both tried to end the game at multiple points. And that just shows how close it is that neither of them were able to find that opportunity until the very end.
Is that the right way for both of them to play to try to finish the game off at that point? Or is it okay to say, I'm in the lead, let me not try to finish the game and look for a different area? Would that have been a better choice for one of the 2?
I mean, I think it's very easy for GuMiho to say, I can pull back after I kill that base at the bottom right, at the bottom center position, take my 4th, and just max out again. Maybe trade out some of the Hellions or the tanks for Ravens. And once you have, 6 or so Ravens with point defense shown, the Marauders become useless. It shuts down the Vikings. It even helps with the Banshees against the Thors because it'll block their shots as well. It's all about rounding out to the late game tech. I think GuMiho pushed the envelope a little bit more, but still pretty well handled by both sides. Like, MarineKing did what he needed to do based on how behind, I guess, he was from the start.
So how do you think stylistically this next match is going to go then? Because we've pretty much seen the way they're going to play. GuMiho preferring mech here over his opponent preferring bio. When these 2 collide to each other, you think this is going to favor GuMiho going forward, or is it clear opportunities for MarineKing against this style?
It's only tough to say because I don't actually know what the next map is. For Terran versus Terran, if we get the big map, we get a big 4-player map where the drops get crazy. GuMiho is someone that is very capable of playing bio. He's the kind of guy that will even go Marine Tank against Protoss and make it work. He's not exactly forced into any direction. He likes to play around with the Hellion Viking, but we didn't even see him use that for the early game defense. That was more of his mid-game strategy. And on the same hand, we can also say that MarineKing has shown some mech. He's obviously put a little bit of practice into it in that regard. He had a very nice, safe setup against Bunny's Banshees, but it really just comes down to the preference because these guys just seem very, very well matched.
There is the towel, as GuMiho's brought it out, getting ready for map number 2, maybe brought it out for game number 1. But that is the beautiful stage that we have here live in Tour of France. Looking forward to the next couple of hours as we really elevate the level and the excitement that we're going to be bringing, fighting for this trophy on stage. 1 player today will be crowned the first champion of DreamHack in 2015. The 2 Terran players going head-to-head for a position in the second set and the semifinals, as MarineKing from Team MVP and GuMiho from Team MVP, also with Invasion, looking forward to moving on to the next round. And every player seems to be gunning towards a fight with parting at the end of the tournament.
Yeah, the final boss, you could say, in the hunt for the first ever DreamHack trophy in France, as we are loading into map number 2. That game number 1 felt like everything that I was expecting out of seeing these 2 players go up.
Right.
And if the rest of the series looks as good as that, I'm a happy man.
All right, let's find out if you're going to be a happy man, Nathanius, or just a short one next to me instead. Here we are loaded into map number 2. Up here to the north, playing for Team MVP, it's MarineKing. And he goes toe-to-toe, or fingernail to fingernail with this guy down at the bottom side of Vani Research Station. Also, team MVP with Invasion Esports also for this event is GuMiho! Is GuMiho finally going to find himself with an individual tournament championship to his name? MarineKing's won a couple in the past over the years in these international tournaments. Well, this finally could be GuMiho's moment. He's had a couple of moments over the years. I think San Jose, he was looking very good at the Intel Extreme Masters a few months back. He's also reached the round of 8 before at DreamHack.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity for him, and this is a moment where GuMiho can really try to capture that foreign audience. I think anybody that really dedicated studies the Korean scene loves GuMiho just because he will do things that no one else will do. He'll bust out some crazy builds, and I already brought up the even successfully using tanks versus Protoss. But for this map, both players have switched it up. GuMiho will be the one going for the very fast gas. MarineKing will be playing what seems to be the Reaper this time around. And for Vani Research Station, it's actually quite a good mech map. It's very narrow. If you're trying to swing in a big Doom drop, it's difficult to make that work. But it's also very good for the Banshees on the other hand, since you have so much airspace around both the main and the natural. I think we could see MarineKing mech on this map. And I don't think there's a reason for GuMiho not to. So it's hard to call.
We'll follow closely, Nathanius, our resident Terran expert.
I love my Terran.
You're going to have to do some impressions for me throughout this series, mate. We won't start now. We'll do some a little bit later on as we get closer
we'll get there, man.
towards the end of the series. Don't you worry.
As we build the hype. I think this is still a series that will go along. We'll build it with the hype.
I think so, too. SCV now moving out for GuMiho to have a look on the other side of the map to see what MarineKing's up to, who is now going to plant down this command center and position on this second base.
Yeah, I like that MarineKing is showing a bit of flexibility. This map is never bad for Reapers. We saw when MarineKing opened Reaper against Bunny on this map that he actually kept it in his base and just kind of waited and made sure nothing was coming. Since there's an SCV scout on this map in particular, you usually don't SCV scout with gas first. So this could be GuMiho's way of saying either I have a Reaper coming or I've opened up with some other defensive build like a Barracks Expand or Command Center first, both highly uncommon in this matchup. So MarineKing will move the Reaper out and he should be able to get a good scout of what's going on since the Barracks only built a single Marine.
Yeah, Reaper going to come in, have a look for the starport. Doesn't really know what's going on yet, but he will do very, very shortly. Lots of space for the Reaper to jump into this main. Going to swing around up this ramp and have a look-see inside. So MarineKing gets his first eyes on what GuMiho's up to, sees the factory, sees the starport. Is the Reaper going to escape here? Yes, he will, as he jumps right back out.
Yeah,
and now it's time for preparation towards this Banshee.
And it's very difficult to deny the scout of the Reaper player when you're doing what GuMiho's done, and that's building the tech lab after a single Marine. This gives you the fastest possible way to get a Banshee because you just build the starport on that naked tech lab. But the Hellion actually catching up to this Reaper, that's really nice for GuMiho. He cut units at the start of the game to get that tech up and still swats that down. So MarineKing switches straight into the Reactor Hellion play. This tells me that based on what he scouted, he's going to go for probably just a couple missile turrets, much like he did to Bunny. And then GuMiho, I love this. The only other player I see
look at this.
Bomber.
GuMiho's got this Hellion inside that main base after chasing that Reaper down. He's already killed one SCV. He's going for a second one, delaying the starport. And we know that the starport's going to be able to give the defense against the Banshee that's oncoming. So this is a brilliant move here from GuMiho. He's targeted down that SCV, gets another one, his third one after being taken down. Excellent move there by GuMiho.
This makes it even more important that he gets the engineering bay up. He's just now started it, so the Banshee should be able to show up completely uncontested. By delaying the starport, he delays the Viking. It's actually not possible for MarineKing to counterattack based on the way that GuMiho has positioned his barracks and his factory. You cannot actually fit Hellions through that. This is something that like Bomber does all the time. Is really, really smart to prevent counterattacks when you open up with so few units. And there's the Hellions. He's gonna roll up. He's gonna be denied access. GuMiho has. He's
a good setup.
Yeah,
very good setup.
Very well
Widowmine about to pop out too. If he can borrow that, it's going to deal some damage. He has a Raven on the way too. But here comes the Banshee. The turrets are not ready yet. And GuMiho looking fantastic already here. There's the block. There's the borrow from the Widowmine. And it's not going to go off, unfortunately. But there's the cancel on one of the turrets. We're already seeing an SCV go down. Second one's going to be taken down for GuMiho as he moves towards this natural.
Yeah, I mean, he's got turrets on both bases, but this is still a place where GuMiho can play ball. If he builds any other Banshees further in this game, he can try to split the Vikings' attention. He can always try to go for add-ons. We saw Bunny actually get a reactor in his game versus MarineKing, and just try to park at the edge of these bases, get every little bit, and force MarineKing to just try to move this Viking around nonstop.
GuMiho looking for some weaknesses. And MarineKing has a scan up this ramp, gets a couple of Marines, also gets rid of the Widow Mine that was on the ramp. An auto turret has been placed down to help defend this for now for GuMiho.
Yeah, I like this a lot. Yeah, we have the Banshee just kind of parked here. It will actually run out of energy, so I don't think it should be able to kill this this reactor, but also forces the scan, which is really nice since it had no energy left anyway. GuMiho going for the third command center. He's really liking the 3-base play and forcing MarineKing to be the one that has to make plays, as it were. MarineKing's been pretty happy to sit on 2 bases for a lot of these games.
Man, these Hellions have been very annoying here. They've already killed about 3, 4, even 5 Marines at this point. A couple of SCVs that have been trying to repair the structures at the front, so really nice there by MarineKing. He continues to build these Hellions. He's got a couple of Vikings in support now, so he's going to knock on this front door once again.
Yeah,
a bunker is being built.
Landing the Vikings to try to push this could actually work. He sends out the Banshee.
Oh, the Raven's got to be careful.
Yeah, he almost has enough energy from the auto turret. One Viking gets picked off. Very, very important. Some of these Hellions are quite weak. That auto turret, actually, I wouldn't even mind throwing some Dosh at that to repair it.
And these Hellions continue to pressure this. The Raven's got to be careful. Another auto turret has been placed down, but that's in a position where almost every Hellion can have a shot at it, but going to take a long time to bring that down. Bunker now completed, and a tank about to pop. So GuMiho will defend this location, and he has a Banshee on the other side of the map. And with the Vikings being aggressive with the Hellions, they're not around to defend this point.
Yeah, even with Vikings on the map, one thing I've learned from Bunny, man, it's there's always a way to get some kills with Banshees. The Koreans have shown us time and time again how they can abuse the positioning of their opposing forces. And we've also seen that switch around. You know, GuMiho started 2 engineering base. He's getting 2 extra barracks. MarineKing's going to be playing mech now. And you can kind of see both of these players are very flexible in the army composition choices that they can go for in this matchup.
Why did you think they switched it up then? I mean, GuMiho's meant to be this mech player, but he's playing bio and the other way around. Why has that choice been made?
It's really hard to tell. You know, oftentimes it comes down to preference in Terran versus Terran, and it could be that MarineKing scouting the Cloak Banshee just feels more comfortable going straight into Viking Hellion with missile turrets to defend. Maybe he doesn't think he can defend other gas first plays without it.
Right.
So it just kind of naturally leads into mech, more easily at least, because you already have Vikings and Hellions.
Yeah. Well, quite a bit of damage being done by this Banshee, just kind of floating around, and without that turret in between these bases, it's been quite a bit of a frustration for MarineKing. He doesn't really want to have to use another scan.
It's, you know, knowing that MarineKing is only on 2 orbitals, it's not that bad for GuMiho to trade out since he does have his 3rd command center already turned into an orbital. The Banshees aren't the big focus. It's about buying time again, and those mules are supposed to accelerate the Terran's buildup, but MarineKing can't really do that if he's spending all his scans on Banshees.
Well, we're going to move into the mid game then, as we have MarineKing with 87 supply, 75 for GuMiho. A little bit better of economy for GuMiho because he's on these 3 command centers, but MarineKing is really ramping up his production here. Is he looking to plan an attack here, Nathanias, around GuMiho taking his 3rd shortly?
One really cool thing about the way that MarineKing's been playing out his mech, and that vastly differs from the way GuMiho played the last map, is, as you said, very aggressive. He's used the Hellions, but also a lot of Hellbat drops. And with low numbers of bio, with low numbers of siege tanks, it's very, very difficult to stop this. We saw Bunny try to use missile turrets to aid against it, but honestly, as well set up as GuMiho is, he does not have enough army supply to actually stop a direct assault with this, because the Hellbats can bypass the wall, because the Medivacs can just drop right on top of him.
Well, Hellbat's ready. Coming down with these Medivacs. MarineKing really ramping up the unit production. And here's the boosters. 3 Medivacs look for a way in. They go around the turret. They're going to drop these Hellbats.
Oh, yeah. He could get right on top of the tank and try to go grab those Hellions from outside of the base and then transform them inside, as he will pick off this tank. He will clean up the Marines. He has a lot of Vikings and Hellions kind of waiting on the other side, but since the missile turrets are still there, it's quite tricky. He escapes with the full Medivacs.
Whoa.
Not bad.
Not bad at all. Keeps those alive, those 4 Hellbats and 2 Medivacs. A nice little attack there from MarineKing. Not too much invested in, especially because he didn't lose too much. But the attack, at least planned attack, continues to be shaped up here from MarineKing. More and more units are being built. Vikings, Hellions, tanks. And shortly, I don't know how much GuMiho scouted in the last little bit here. I don't know when his last scan was. Does he know about this 3rd? Does he know about the extra production? At the moment, when I'm looking at it, no. So is he going to start to move out to take his 3rd shortly? Because that is the natural progression to make at this stage in the game. Because MarineKing is meant to be expanding himself, but he's not currently, and this could be massive for MarineKing to tie this up. GuMiho just doesn't know what's going on.
MarineKing has cut an incredible number of corners to make a push work that you do not often see. And while GuMiho has that mobile army, there's so many Hellions because he hasn't put the resources into static defense or an additional base.
GuMiho sees
it's very scary.
GuMiho needs to actually stay active out on the map. It's the best way to defend, by not putting himself in a place where he can be dropped on top.
All right, well, all these Hellions, there's a lot of Hellions, and they roast these Marines, and MarineKing is just burning everything alive here. And here come the Vikings and Hellbats in support as well. And GuMiho just walks into a trap and gets his entire army obliterated. There is a Raven up here dropping auto turrets into the Marine line, but he just lost his army. Is there anything to defend at home right now for GuMiho? Because MarineKing is coming to tie this series up. He's had this plan, he's had this attack ready to go for a while, and now is the time to strike. But can he break through to the heart of GuMiho?
I think at this point, he can try to land the Vikings on top of the army. He can just drop all the Hellbats. There's so many Marines in this army for GuMiho. The Hellbats are going to kill them all within a single volley or two. He doesn't necessarily have to use a Medivacs to get on top, but, you know, why not?
Here we go. It's time to Doom drop all those Marines. The boosted Medivacs march forward, and he drops the Hellbats onto this. The Marines getting absolutely toasted once again. Hellbats walking up. Can GuMiho make the hold? He pushes MarineKing back, and he wasn't having enough to break the front lines, Nathanius.
That's pretty impressive defense by GuMiho. MarineKing had an opportunity, I think, to land those Vikings, but since the tanks are still alive, they're buying him quite a bit of space. Important things to note, of course, are the shutting down of that third base, so the income has shifted back to pretty equal for both of them. The one thing that MarineKing has not done, though, is replace the SCVs he's lost. He's lost a ton of them in his natural because of the Raven.
Oh, and here comes another drop from MarineKing. He's going to find these Marines all very low, and he gets a lot of those. The two tanks still standing strong, but so are the Marines.
How are the Marines not dead?
How are they not dead yet? He continues to march forward, and GuMiho smashes this attack back, and I can't believe my eyes. GuMiho holds on to that attack.
I feel like I'm watching a replay of Bunny versus MarineKing with trying to stop these big drops, but somehow GuMiho's units are they're just doing it better. I don't actually understand.
The whole push has been destroyed. That Raven had the auto turrets into the mineral line. He lost a lot of SCVs in that. There's no third command center. GuMiho kept his alive. That was an absolutely remarkable hold there from GuMiho. He marched out, lost his entire army, had to fall back, build up a new one, and hold on against MarineKing's assault. Now it's GuMiho, the one that's going over to the other side of the map while keeping this third command center alive. What a play, what a defense.
So mind-blowing the way that he handled this, because MarineKing's army just did not look stoppable. I really feel like at some point when you're playing this style as MarineKing, you can't keep pushing in and pulling back. You have to go commit, you have to go all in. You have to recognize the fact that yes, you are all in. You do not have another expansion that you can take. He has no static defense to stop any potential counterattacks. He's been vulnerable to drops this whole game, but now that GuMiho can be the one that's out on the map, there's nothing to stop him from just doing big drops between all of his bases.
GuMiho absolutely solid and wonderful play here today. He's going to have to defend against these three Hellions. They will get a lot of SCV kills, but at the other side of the map, we do have a very large army moving across and going to drop into the natural here. There's quite a few tanks on that main base, but there's not too much here. Just Hellbats to defend against this.
Just the Hellbats, no Medivacs to heal them. GuMiho can focus these down with his Marines and Marauders, and look, all these tanks on siege. He's blocking him out of even trying to move down there. He's like, yeah, I'm going to drop on top of you. And actually, GuMiho could lift inside of his own Medivacs, which he does. He's like, well, I killed most of your SCVs. I think I'll just go somewhere else now.
MarineKing killed 8 SCVs there, but it was GuMiho who landed the 16. He killed twice the amount compared to those three Hellions.
When you have 60 plus SCVs, it's okay to lose a few. Apollo, MarineKing's at 25. He's broke.
He's broke. He's got no money, no third command center. This is his army, and it looks like MarineKing's going to be building up towards one fight. And is that fight going to work out? He sees these units. There's not too many here for GuMiho, so he drops the Hellbats on them. But
there's no tank support here.
Coming, he's going to clean this up quite easily, and that's a nice clear up there for GuMiho. And now the tanks all exposed, unsieged, and GuMiho just says, okay, if you're going to siege up there, I'll destroy everything you've got. You've got no money to rebuild these. I've got all the dollar in this game. And GuMiho smashes that. Even more reinforcements are streaming up. And GuMiho looking at it 2-0, marches through. GG.
Exceedingly impressive play from GuMiho, going up 2-0 now against MarineKing, handling a style that looked so strong. I was convinced that MarineKing, after shutting down that big push outside of his natural expansion, I was convinced he was in a position to go for the counter and take the game, but GuMiho just proving us wrong.
Wonderful play here from GuMiho, fantastic defense, great solid play in both matches now. And MarineKing's looking like he's finally met his match. We talked about how through the bracket, through the groups, he's had an easier run than a lot of the other players that are in the quarterfinals. And now he's going up against the hardest challenge yet. And he's not been able to compete with this guy.
GuMiho has just done a really phenomenal job of handling everything. The way that he used the Banshees. When you recognize that your opponent likes to play 2 base, your Banshees don't have to kill a lot. 1 or 2 SCVs, but take away all the scans that you can. And you have a Terran with very few SCVs, no mules, and meanwhile GuMiho is just slowly building up a defense. And all he needs to do is defend. He doesn't have to go deal crazy amounts of damage. The Ravens certainly helped, but he really had everything under control, even though he lost like that one big fight.
And now MarineKing has a very tall task ahead of him. He's competing against a player that just is looking so very dominant right now, and MarineKing has to find a way to win the next 3 maps in a row. Maybe some of these maps are going to help his style. Maybe the larger maps he's going to be able to play more of an aggressive bio play against GuMiho here. But no matter what, to win 3 maps in a row is a tall order, considering what we've already seen back there.
And you look at the maps that we've gone through, like Vonnie Research Station was his map against Bunny. That was a map where that style worked out flawlessly for him, and he cut a lot of corners, he got away with it. But now we're going to see this move into a bit of a weird space that we haven't explored as much with all the maps that are available, of course, being a best of 5. It gets funky, Apollo.
It does get funky, and you've got to be able to prepare and deal with everything that's going to be thrown at you now. Very important moments here for MarineKing. He's traveled a long way to compete at this, obviously looking at a much deeper run than just a round of 8, wanting to go further. But GuMiho is the better player at the moment on that stage that we can see. Moving forward, GuMiho has reached the round of 8 twice before. This would be his first semi-final finish, minimum finish at DreamHack Open, looking to challenge for the top here with the likes of Parting, who's a massive favorite for this one. Going to be interesting to see how this next mech goes. Is MarineKing going to crumble while he's up there now?
It's so tricky because I really tried to get a good idea of where these players are, but neither of them seem to have many crutches. They're both so flexible, and we're going to move on to potentially the last map of this best of 5 in the northwest of Iron Fortress. Needs to win 3 maps in a row to stay alive. Give it up for MVP MarineKing. Three maps against a guy who has shown an incredible amount of flexibility already in the Northeast, also representing Team MVP and Invasion Esports. He is GuMiho.
So far today, this is looking like we could have our third 3-0, Nathanius. Very one-sided games. Hopefully MarineKing can provide us with some quality to turn this one around. He's in his history been able to do this before, but this is looking very difficult. And his choice coming into game number 3, when everything is on the line, he must win this next map to stand a chance. Gas first.
It switches around once more, Apollo. And on this map, you've got 4 possible spawns. You don't know 100% where the other guy is. On Echo, on Vonnie Research Station, they both knew if they were going to get proxied, where they would have to worry about them. And the best thing about this map for MarineKing is that if GuMiho doesn't scout him, since he's been tending towards the more aggressive side, maybe he can catch him with a one-off. GuMiho is going to open up with a Reaper. If he doesn't send an SCV scout, and his Reaper goes bottom right, bottom left, it's possible that the attack comes very close to hitting before GuMiho even knows that it's coming. And it's one of the things that makes maps like this volatile and a bit more interesting when we see them pop up in these longer series.
Has there really been any flaws that you've seen from GuMiho so far of these last couple of games? It just looks so incredibly solid. I mean, I've used this word a couple of times, but that's the best way to describe it.
He doesn't cut many corners, He throws up the turrets. He gets he's built bunkers, even on Echo, just setting himself up defensively. Like, he's not shy to throw extra defenses in. He recognizes that because MarineKing plays 2 base, that if he goes 3rd CC, his biggest weakness is just the attack. And that's the best thing about GuMiho's strategy. See, there's no holes in it.
All right, well, GuMiho's going to come up to the main base here and have a look inside. Sees this very fast gas first build, Nathanius. And MarineKing has been spoiled already with his opener.
GuMiho, though, as this Reaper comes out, it's very important for him to pay attention to what comes out of this barracks from MarineKing. MarineKing, once again showing, he wants to go for this fast Reaper style. And with this, if he goes for the fast Hellions to follow this up and combines them into a big push on top of that base, it could be really difficult. He could bop them the same way that he did against Bunny when they played on Echo yesterday.
All right, well, this SCV hiding outside here. Reaper gonna wait. MarineKing has this Reaper that's moving forwards.
And MarineKing does start up a command center behind all of this. He's not looking to commit to a crazy amount of aggression with this build. He just wants to see if he can get a feel for what's going on. Keep in mind, because he didn't SCV scout, this Reaper's like, I'm going to go cross-spawn. And there's nothing there. So not a lot of opportunities here for him to actually do much. And GuMiho gets a slightly faster expansion. And because of the straight Reaper from the gas first, MarineKing doesn't have his starport fast enough to really be a crazy threat. You know, this throws off every timing he could have possibly tried to do.
Two Reapers just moving around to the center of the map. We'll see where they go next. Factory down for GuMiho. Almost finished. As the starport's on its way for MarineKing. Still hasn't found his opponent. Unfortunately, he's going to have to go all the way to the top right now. He's known where his opponent is, but that has given time for this bunker to complete. The two Reapers can go inside. He's very safe with his command center now finished up.
Yeah, you know, it's one of the cardinal problems when you're going for these gas first builds that you usually don't send the SCV scouts, so you get into this tense position. The Reaper jumps up, but it's like, what are you really doing? Not quite sure. He could be going Hellion Viking, he could be going Marine Tank. There's a lot of options. He could even be going Banshee. GuMiho has shown enough flexibility in his history that any one of those three are very good choices. And MarineKing actually, his Hellion gets caught.
This is not looking good for MarineKing. He's going to get one of these Reapers, but every little attempt he tries is shut down every single time. These three Hellions cannot run past that. They just lose everything there. But there's the switch up. The starport's going to go onto this tech lab, and we are going to see Banshee production more than likely coming out from GuMiho.
He's going to go straight into tanks on top of this. And if we look at the setup for both players, MarineKing just has that one gas. So he wants to build a lot of Hellions, get a lot of mineral income, build a lot of Hellions. Can't go double Viking, but maybe when he starts to saturate that natural, he'll start thinking towards it. So it's not a bad composition to deal with what GuMiho's going for. But if GuMiho builds up that Marine count really high and focuses on the tank production behind this, he can still go for a push before tanks off of MarineKing.
Are they going to run past this bunker? Yes, they are. One of them goes down, but the Vikings landed as well. And MarineKing gets into the SCV line, and he roasts 2, 3, 4, maybe more in a second once he goes over to this position. A nice move from MarineKing, really catching GuMiho off guard. He has to pull his SCVs and mules to defend that bunker, or around that bunker, to protect themselves.
Yeah, he has the Reaper try to run back at the same time. This bunker Marines gets 1, 2 of the Hellions, so gets a couple of exit frags there as this Reaper jumps into the main. He sees the starport, and if he sees that there's no second gas, he'll know, okay, he's just playing with Hellion Viking. I don't believe he saw it, though.
There is no engineering bay, I don't think, right down from MarineKing. It's only just been planted, so...
It's just about to finish.
And this Banshee going to make its way over very shortly.
Yeah, he's starting the turrets now.
It's gonna be timed well enough.
But we've still seen GuMiho make a couple of plays with this. You know, he's found opportunities in these spots, and he's building the siege tanks with the second factory only now being on the way from MarineKing. He's very far from having tanks. So it could even be GuMiho's plan that if he can't get SCVs, he could try to kill maybe some Hellions, anything that can slow him down, so that he could maybe do a lot of damage with just a big Marine tank Banshee push.
Well, Banshee pokes and sees that turret, but there is a little bit of a weak spot here where he can pick off a couple of these SCVs. 1, and he's going to try a second. 3 Vikings here, turrets, giving range of these, giving sight. Going to come into this main base. There is another turret there, but another blank spot where the Vikings cannot shoot this Banshee.
It's very important to note that based on the way MarineKing has played with this style and only going for 2 bases, GuMiho does not need to kill a lot of SCVs. MarineKing wants to cut workers as early as possible so that he can dump all of his resources into that mass Hellion medevac play. The more he has to spend rebuilding workers, the more he's slowed down, the better position GuMiho's in to defend a 2-base push.
And there's the scan. Does get rid of the Banshee after 4 SCVs have been killed. His second one arrives. Doesn't want to go into the scan range here. Second scan, that's going to go down. That's a lot of Vikings. So clears up the 2 Banshees. And MarineKing safe from any more harassment.
Yeah, the consistent tank production, though. The really nice thing about this for GuMiho is that the tanks can cover everything that might try to run by him now. He still has the bunker in the front, and just having that alone provides enough meat that dropping on top of it with Hellbats is still very, very tricky. I think is that MarineKing's first armory, though, too. So he can't even move into the Hellbat play yet. Like, he maybe tries to fly a medevac of Hellions in. So has to go a roundabout way based on the spawns, though. So MarineKing doesn't have too many options at this point. He just has to wait for the armory to finish and then try to make the Hellbat drop play work.
Yeah, it's a lot of Hellions that he's created now. But as you can see over here, GuMiho sat pretty nicely on these 2 bases, but he's got a lot of production now coming up. With the addition of these barracks, he's gone up to a total of 5. Tank production started quite a while ago, and he also has this Raven for support too. He's going to be building towards quite a beefy army himself shortly.
Yeah, the biggest thing that GuMiho has changed relative to the last game is the lack of the third command center.
Right.
And because of that, as you pointed out, he has a lot of production. And what GuMiho could be thinking to himself is, all I have to do is stop the first attack now, and because I have this production so much faster, counterattacking should be able to get me an easy win, or at least a very easy third base. And with the way that these tanks are all on top of each other, it's difficult for the Hellbats to get between them, to really force that friendly fire. And this is where MarineKing tries to make a big play. He's got the blue flame only just starting there, the +1 only just starting.
Well, right now, I think this is going to be very hard for MarineKing to make this work if he attacks into this defensive position. Hellbat's now morphed. He has Hellions in this. He's Medivacs. He's going to boost in. He's going to punt himself down. Stim Combat Shield's not an upgrade that we've got researched yet for GuMiho. He sends some units back to come defend. Viking's going to shoot down these. The transformation of Hellions to Hellbats has completed inside this main base. There's a lot of bio here. And even though without Stim and Combat Shields, he's splitting these very well, and he will clean this up rather easily. Takes no losses to his economy.
Yeah, so much
Pretty
production.
nice defense.
GuMiho, really good defense.
+1 attack now, going to complete for GuMiho, and he's going to have Stim very shortly. He needs to get that combat shields on the way. His concussion shells is the upgrade he went for first.
And MarineKing realizes, like, I'm probably not going to be able to kill you, actually. You have a lot of stuff. So third command center starts up for him. He realizes that GuMiho went for the production first, and because of that, he should not be able to win a straight-up fight anytime soon. GuMiho is saying, well, how many tanks do you actually have to defend? Because you've invested so much in Hellbats and Vikings, I might just be able to bum rush you here.
Well, 2 tanks is all he has right now, Nathanius. And a scan sees that the army's missing. MarineKing sees that the army is gone, and now he's got to prepare to defend this. He has 1 Medivac that he can throw Hellbats at to this army.
I'd love to see if he could just move up Vikings block for him, throw down some Seeker missiles maybe, or the point defense drone can also work to stop the medevac. And here he goes, just going to charge in with only 2 siege tanks. The Hellbats are going to try to drop on top of this with the blue flame, but he focuses down the one in the back first. The tanks are still standing strong for GuMiho, and he might be able to break MarineKing right here.
There's only 2 tanks, and one of them's going to go down. The second one, the other's at the back, and it's not siege. And GuMiho looking to break through the command centers. A massive loss at this stage of the game. That's going to get down. The tanks are going to siege into position, covering this ramp, and MarineKing went for a push. He didn't do well, and now he has to deal with this counterattack, which he isn't dealing well with.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, GuMiho defended so well, he forced MarineKing to step back and say, well, I guess I finally have to take a third base. And that's when GuMiho...
The command center's going to be blown up. He's down to 1 command center. GuMiho is in fantastic position to move to his first semi-final at DreamHack over the years. And MarineKing's in so much trouble. He's lifted his SCVs back into his main base, but he's on 1 command center. He has to rebuild it. He's staring down at a 3-0. GuMiho moves into position to get his tanks in range of the others. He scans, he sees, he destroys. GuMiho going for the victory. He's going for this 3-0. MarineKing just doesn't have anything left.
He can't be stopped. MarineKing knowing this is the last, his death throes in this tournament as he attempts to hold on for just a bit longer. But the moving up of these tanks, GuMiho will finally lock down the factories. More and more units streaming across the map. MarineKing, he's just feeling it out now.
He's feeling it out in a classic MarineKing style. He knows he's been bested here by a completely dominant GuMiho, who is now in a position to tell the rest of the players remaining in this tournament that he is a contender for this. He goes and covers the production facilities. The factories are getting blown up. MarineKing can't have any money. He can't have any units if everything continues to be blown up. And GuMiho in a display of excellence. And as the SCVs come in, Nathanius, the last stand.
He pulls the SCVs and GuMiho says, now you have my permission to die. As he takes the 3-0 and will move on to the semifinals here at DreamHack Tour, picking up and moving around his last units. GG, GuMiho wins 3-0. All right, now let's hear some words from the man himself on stage with Smix. It's GuMiho.
Thank you very much, Nate. We had a 3-0 and a 3-0, and guys, it's like we're on a spree today. Another 3-0. Congratulations, GuMiho. Extremely well done on making it to the semifinals. But compared to the other series that we had, it wasn't just a walkover. In fact, game one was extremely back and forth. And honestly, from a viewer perspective, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but you came out on top. Can you walk us through that game from your perspective? 일단 축하드리고요. 3대 0으로 이겼지만 첫 경기가 되게 좀 왔다 갔다 했어요. 되게 우리가 봤을 때는 되게 어떻게 될지 몰랐는데 결국에는 이겼잖아요. 그래서 그 경기에 대해서 좀 더 설명해 주세요.
첫 경기 제가 좀 상황이 좋았던 것 같은데 좀 급하게 하느라고 스스로 망친 감이 있었고요. 근데 결국 업그레이드 때문에 정신만 잘 차리면 이길 수 있다고 생각했어요. 그리고 그게 그 경기 이긴 게 아마 뒷 경기에도 영향을 많이 미친 것 같아요.
So he says, in terms of game one, in the beginning at least, I felt that I had a very large advantage, but because I was aware of this, I played a little bit too hastily and I made some mistakes that I shouldn't have made. But despite that, because I knew I had an upgrade advantage, I thought, okay, I just need to pay attention and not make any more mistakes. And I think that's why I was able to come out on top. And I think that, in fact, it was because I won game one. I think that had a big advantage going into the further games, and that had a big influence on why I was able to win game 2 and 3. Now, you just defeated MarineKing, and you said in the pre-match interview that you had been studying him prior to coming here. But despite that, I still can't help but feel like because going up against a teammate is so difficult because of the mind games, you made it look so easy. 일단 아까 전 인터뷰에서 이제 그 이정현 선수와 어쩌면 만날 수도 있겠다 이런 말을 했었는데 그래도 팀원이잖아요. 그래서 좀 더 우리가 봤을 땐 3대 0보다는 더 어려울 거라고 생각을 했는데 어떻게 그렇게 쉽게 그래도 3대 0으로 이겼나요?
그게 아마 첫 경기의 영향인 것 같은데요. 제가 생각했을 때 제가 졌으면은 아마 저도 3대 0으로 졌을 것 같아요. 서로 잘 아니까 그만큼 약간 분리할 때 어떻게 하는지 더 잘 아니까 그걸 이용해서 더 쉽게 이길 수 있었던 것 같아요.
So GuMiho says, I think this just goes back to me winning that game one. I think winning game one was such a big, important factor in terms of just sweeping up and riding that momentum into winning the games 2 and 3. I actually think that if I had ended up losing game one, it would have been the reverse, that I would have lost 3-0. It's because we know each other so well. We know how each other, we know how each other's play when we're in a disadvantage and when we're not doing as well. We know with the mindset of the other player, and I think that's because, and that's why I was able to win 3-0, because I won that first game. And last but not least, GuMiho, I know that I've spoken with you before at a foreign tournament where you were in front of a pretty decent audience, but this audience here in Tour is amazing. And I know that you must have some words that you want to say to these fans here. 제가 전에 구미호 선수를 다른 해외 대회에서 만났는데 거기서도 이제 팬들이 많았어요. 근데 여기 있는 팬들이 진짜 어마어마하게 많고 이제 환호 소리가 또 진짜 크잖아요. 이 팬들에게 한마디 해주세요.
응원해 주셔서 정말 감사하고 이번만큼은 꼭 우승할 수 있도록 하겠습니다.
He says, first of all, thank you so much for cheering for me, and I will make sure to grab this chance and win DreamHack Open Tour. Thank you very much, GuMiho. That concludes our third quarterfinal match. We'll see who will join GuMiho in our next quarterfinal match. It'll be a series between two players. It'll be Patient versus True. So stay tuned after this.